Hi, my name's Nick Davis, creator and developer of the Blast Technique. Now, you've been sent this video by your Blast practitioner to just give you some tips and help to get the most out of your session. Now, Blast works really quickly and gets right to the root of the trauma. So just a couple of things here. So firstly, your Blast practitioner may have asked you to fill in a personal history sheet. Now, the personal history sheet is a list of all the things that have happened to you that have created a trauma in your life. So if this is 0, where it doesn't affect you whatsoever and doesn't bother you, has no effect, and here's 10, the worst you can ever imagine, we're looking at things that have happened from a kind of 6, above a 6, so 7, 8, 9, 10, or maybe 6. So things that have affected you in your life. Now, we don't need the whole story. What happens when you continue to tell a story about a traumatic event or even a positive event is there are glial cells in the brain that reinforce the emotional charge to those events. And that's why talking about something again and again and again, especially if traumatic, not only doesn't process it, but it reinforces it. It strengthens the synaptic pathways in the brain. So what we need when you fill in a personal history is just a short sentence about what happened. But more importantly, what we need to know is how it made you feel, the emotions, particularly the vulnerable emotions around that's really important. The other thing we need to do for you in the session is for you to be able to relax with your practitioner. It's really important that you have a good therapist-client fit so that you guys work together, because once you're relaxed and you have trust in the Blast practitioner, what will happen is we can get to the root of your trauma. This means that you're only going to have to relive that trauma once again, and then we're going to process that trauma as it should have happened at the time in the quickest way possible. And what it does, the way Blast works, is it takes the trauma from the right hemisphere of the brain, and what research has shown, whether it's the amygdala all the way up to the cortex, so some research differs on which area. But it's generally agreed that the right hemisphere of the brain is overactive. So with bilateral stimulation and lots of other things that we do with Blast, is it pulls the memory via the corpus callosum through the left, through the right, through the left, and balances where it's stored. So it's stored properly, but without the same emotional charge. So we still have a kind of distant memory of what happened, but there's no emotional charge to it any longer. And Blast is one of the very few techniques in the world that works with the brain in the way that it's supposed to work. It processes the trauma non-consciously. So it's not a confusion technique. We're not scrambling or mixing up neural pathways, which I don't think is healthy in the longer term. We're just processing it within the brain in the way that the brain should have processed it back at that time. Now, another thing to remember when you're working with your Blast practitioner is there's an ego state that can get in the way of our helping you process that trauma, and it's called the critical parent ego state. So when people come in with a kind of shield on, that doesn't give us access to the root of the trauma, and that can be people who come in who are quite critical of what we're doing, very analytical and things like that. So that's why I say it's important to get that therapist and client fit right, so you feel really comfortable, so you can just sit on the chair, feet flat on the floor, hands in your lap, nice and relaxed, and let the Blast practitioner do their amazing work and resolve that PTSD or trauma for you in the shortest possible time. And they will help you with that. So if they mention the critical parent ego state, that's what they're talking about. Sometimes we put that armor on when we're nervous, when we're scared, to try and protect ourselves, but it inhibits the Blast practitioner's ability to get to the root of the trauma and do the work. I guess the best way of explaining this would be to say it's almost like taking your car to a garage and then saying there's a problem with the engine, there's some noise in there, but I'm not going to open the bonnet. So obviously the garage should probably suggest that you go somewhere else. So we just need you to be able to relax and open up, so you can open that bonnet so that we can get in as the expert engineer, fix that engine, and obviously let you process that trauma so you can have a much happier life. I hope that's helped. But any other questions, just ask your Blast practitioner.